this year I was asked to provide the Penny Bron Memorial Lecture, which is the second lecture that they've had in this series, which is about looking at this very topic here, getting the best from conventional and complementary therapies, and about how Penny Bron's work in forming the Bristol Cancer Help Centre really pioneered, as our story in Australia also pioneered at the same time, which is an interesting synchronicity, with continents away, that Penny was going through her experience while myself and Ian were going through our experience. And it seems like something was going on at that particular time, in fact, in many places around the world. Larry Lashan's work, Simonton, Rennie Siegel, all of these names that would be popular to you, Commonweal, movements through Esalen, through psychotherapy. Something started happening in the 1970s, late 60s, 70s. And really what we're doing today builds on that experience. So to further introduce myself to you, because I think it's always very important to know the background of the person who's up here and talking with you. So we'll have a next slide. For those who like to know what I'm about, what my qualifications are, they're there for you. I have had the experience from being a carer of someone who had 2 weeks to live, who had a remission actually in 1978 after having 2 weeks to live, then training in many health modalities, still a student and still a student of life and still a student of experience, and then in 1997 having my turn come around as becoming the patient myself. So it's a very interesting trilogy that life has given me to work with, and it's one that I personally, like many of you who are here today who have breast cancer, have to find some sense and some meaning in this uninvited experience that's come into your life. So what I might do is just do an introduction a little bit about my own story, Ian's story, just briefly, to take us through, and then I would like to move into how specifically what I present in the first part actually applies to dealing with breast cancer on an emotional level. Emotions are often left out of breast cancer on a lot of levels, in hospital and even sometimes in complementary care. And this is something that really must be paid attention to, and as we go through, you'll see actually the reasons why. But it was the thing that I noticed was unattended to from the many thousands of women that were telling me their life stories, and realising this was not mind-body medicine. This was mind-body-emotion medicine. And dare I say it, mind-body-spirit medicine. And it is that combination of healing the physical, mental, emotional and spiritual that we are all indeed looking for when we have uninvited life crisis. Whether it be cancer, or as Penny Bron wrote, it doesn't have to be cancer, any crisis will do. And sure enough, that is very true. So, for my own story, I was working in a veterinary surgery. I come from a background as a veterinary surgical nurse, and I was working very happily in a surgery. The person I was working with later became my boyfriend, a relationship developed, and we had only been in that relationship for somewhere around about 3 to 4 months before he actually had a diagnosis of cancer. Interesting. One of my other things that I was doing at that particular time, I was doing part-time modelling, very far away from the sphere of actually working in a healing mode, especially with cancer. And I'd worked very hard at this, and I had just got my portfolio taken by Vogue. And a really big agency was working with me. And virtually the same day, Ian had his diagnosis of secondaries. And it was one of those crossroads that you get at life. It's a real sliding door. As do you choose to go this way, or do you choose to go that way? And out of compassion and love and care, it was very obvious to me that I left that other option behind and chose to be with this man who was dealing with cancer. Now, he had osteogenic sarcoma, which is a bone cancer, and it's bone cells that actually grow out of control. So if you get it in your bone, quite different to secondary breast cancer. If you get this one actually in the bone, it grows bone wherever it metastasizes. So you can get lung metastases which are bony, you can get a lymph nodes that turn to bone, and before you know it, there's more bone than a person. So it's really, as Deepak Chopra says, the genius of the body gone mad, growing bone cells in places where bone cells shouldn't grow. And like breast cancer, secondaries. It's a bit crazy to think you have breast cancer secondaries growing in bones where they should be in breast tissue. The breast cells should stay in the breast tissue. Why does this happen? And that's become a question in research for me over the years that I'm still following up. So here I was with this young man. It was 8 days from diagnosis to leg amputation. So as an active practicing young vet, he finished up having his right leg amputated through the hip, and the cancer was very advanced before it was found. Despite the fact that he'd had a general all-over computerised check which had given him a total fitness 3 months before. Which was, yes, very strange indeed. There's a foundation in Victoria that actually have a very good system for picking these things up, and it missed it completely. So this was a real surprise. The leg was amputated, there was no counselling available, there was no advice, you just sent home, just live your life with one leg now. And for me as a partner, just live your life with a man with one leg now, which was really quite a challenge. People who were in our circle of friends didn't know how to handle this. They tended to withdraw instead of coming around, because in those days the thing cancer is a word and not a sentence was actually not believed, and maybe there's still a little bit out there in the society about that too. So it was a very lonely and very difficult time, and we spent the next 11 months just adapting to that process. Of course, I became the chief pack horse, so I was the one who carried everything everywhere and did a lot of things, and that became a part of my role. And we thought that he might be in the 5% alive in 5 years' time with the surgery, given the extent of that cancer. But we absolutely did nothing in a positive, proactive way. It was just wishful thinking that, yes, it's good luck, we can do that. He'll be alive in that period of time. But a little messenger came. It's called a secondary. And this little messenger spoke to us fairly clearly. Now, I wasn't awake in those days either, because I'd been vegetarian all my life, from 5. I was into health, I was into all of these things, and yet I had not suggested that the application of those things could or should be applied for Ian. It wasn't until we had that setback that we were actually initiated and became proactive to do something about it. And dealing with setbacks is something that I think is also a very unaddressed issue in the whole of cancer medicine. So he had secondaries in his lymph node, on his chest, through his sternum, and in his lung. And they said, okay, this is 3 to 6 months life expectancy. Little crusader rabbit here still didn't believe that, you know, this was going to be the end, and I thought, there's got to be a way, there's got to be something else, there's got to be more to this. And I really started to get involved in looking at lifestyle and illness, dis-ease and illness, and making that correlation. Ian, on the other hand, also realised that here he had been a vet, treating greyhounds, trotting horses and race horses, manipulating their diet, filling them up with vitamins, minerals, enzymes and everything he could get hold of so they could get faster and run better at Flemington on Saturday. And he had never applied that to himself. Hadn't thought of it. Here he was a vet working 80 hours a week, training for a football club and a member of the Victorian state team in decathlon, which is a really very strenuous event to be involved in, and leading an active social life with yours truly. So these were really sort of very busy times. Anyway, the diagnosis was not good. We intensively went into diet and meditation, deep relaxation.